Okay, welcome back. On to part 3 of creating our CSS layout. I've got my 5 regions in, including the 6th div, the top wrapper. It just looks like this now, very simple. Now it's time to kind of start defining what these IDs, ID tags or ID specifications do, or the CSS. I want to write the CSS that controls what this page is going to look like. Okay, so first thing, I've got my CSS style panel open, and I'm going to come down and just click on this button with the plus on it that lets me write a new CSS rule. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and when it first comes up, it kind of recognized where my cursor was, but I want to do a couple of things to get started here. I'm going to redefine some tags. First thing I want to do is I want to redefine the body tag, because I want to clear all the presets or the defaults, things like margin and any defaults that the browser is going to do without being instructed to. I'm going to just zero all that stuff out. So I'm just going to select a tag, choose the body. Now the first time I do this, the first rule that I write, I want it to create a new style sheet file. So there at the bottom, new style sheet file, and when I click OK now, it's going to want to write down the specifications for the body. And because I don't have a style sheet file yet, it's going to ask me to name and save that CSS file before it can write down what I want the rule for the body here. So and I only have to do this one time. So I click OK. It says, all right, well, here you're going to write this down. So this is going to be my layout CSS document, and it'll automatically put a dot CSS on the end. And I want to make sure it gets into the right folder here, which is the Aspen Elementary folder. Save that. Okay, now all I'm going to do here is go to the box, and I want to make sure that I have zeros here in the margin and padding. And I can kind of see what's going to happen. I mean, I can kind of test this out. If I push apply, I don't know if you saw that, but the margin and the top and left margin both went away, which just sort of clears out all that stuff. I'm also going to set my default font right now. So my font family, I'm going to choose Verdana. And if I want to see how that looks, I can click apply, and that text will change right away. I can see that my font size is kind of big, so I want to just use EMs here. So I'm going to switch. I'm going to say I want this to be 1M, and that's the default size. Now that seems a little big to me, so I think I want my default size to be maybe 0.8 Ms. Okay, that looks a little bit better. We can come back and play with that default font size later if we'd like. The text color, the black, that's coming up by default, so I don't need to set that. Okay, so that is my definition for the body. I am going to put right now just a background color in, just kind of a light gray. So as we start putting background images and background colors into these different DIVs, it'll be a little easier to see. Apply that, say OK. Alright, so now over here you can see I've got a document called layout.css, and there's my first rule that we just defined. What does the body do? And down in my root folder you can see it put that layout.css file in here. And these two documents, this HTML and this CSS file, they're now connected. If I look quick here in the code, up at the top, Dreamweaver has written this little bit of code that says, hey, for this HTML document, connect it to this CSS file, which I called layout. Alright, and in the new version of Dreamweaver, whenever you open up an HTML file, if it has a CS document attached to it, it comes up down here right underneath the display buttons. It comes in as a related file. So I open up the HTML file, the CSS also comes. So I can click on it, I can see there is the CSS that I've written so far, just the simple defaults for my body tag. I can switch back to see the source code, which is the HTML. So I can switch between these two, and you may notice that my design view doesn't change, because those two documents, the HTML, the source code, and the CSS, together, they're going to create my page page or my layout. Okay, so I've got the body down there. Now, to be a little safe, I might add HTML to this, so the body and the HTML tag have the same instructions or the same rules, but we'll maybe do that later. Alright, so now we can start defining what these div tags do. So the first one is the wrapper. So I'm going to come down here to my little HTML breadcrumb trail, select the div that's been named wrapper. You can see it selects the whole outside because I want to define what that wrapper means. So with that selected, come over to my CSS style panel. I'm going to click the plus button and get a new rule. And because I had that selected in the HTML trail, it names it for me. So it says, hey, we're going to create an ID here called wrapper, and it's going to write it down here on that same CSS document. So I'm going to click OK. Alright, now I've already defined what I want the default font to be and the size and the color, so unless I wanted something different, I'm not going to change anything here. I do want a different background, so I'm just going to put a white background color in right now. And when I do that and press apply, I can kind of see that come up. Also, here's where I'm going to decide the width of my layout. Remember, this wrapper goes around my 5 other regions. So I'm going to come down to the box category here and put a width in. So for now, I think I'm just going to go with 800 pixels. And I'm going to zero out all the padding and all the margin and click OK. Now, not much happens there because we can't really see fully what's going on yet, but I can start getting an idea. My design, my layout is going to be 800 pixels wide, and it's not going to. Oh, I'm incorrect here. Over here under margin, what I really want is this 800 pixel wide layout to automatically center itself. And when you're centering things in with CSS, you use the margins to do it. So I'm going to just change the right margin to auto and the left margin to auto. That just means the left and right margin are going to automatically be set, and they'll just automatically be set to be equal, which means that regardless of how wide a browser window my visitor has, this 800 pixel wide block or box will center itself. Alright, let's click OK there, and I'd like to preview it in the browser to just get an idea of how it's looking right now. And you can see there's that white block, 800 pixels wide, and I've got the left and right margins centering automatically. If this browser size changed a little bit, you can see that that margin just adjusts automatically. Okay, so for now, our wrapper ID has been defined. Let's end this part 3, and we'll continue with this layout in part 4.